Ευχαριστούμε και εσάς που μείνατε μαζί μας μέχρι το τέλος. Έχουμε τη μεγάλη χαρά και την τιμή να είναι κοντά μας ο Πρωθυπουργός για το τελευταίο πάνελ της ημέρας, που βέβαια έχει να κάνει με τον πολιτισμό και την πολιτιστική μας κληρονομιά σαν πυλώνα εθνικού πλούτου. Επίσης, έχουμε την τεράστια χαρά και τιμή να έχουμε κοντά μας τη συμπατριώτησά μας, μπορούμε να την πούμε έτσι, τη Βικτόρια Χίσλοπ, και θα ήθελα να τους καλέσω και τους δύο στο βήμα για το τελευταίο session. Κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ, κυρία Χίσλοπ. Κάτσε εδώ, Βικτόρια, και εκεί θα κάτσει ο κύριος Πρωθυπουργός. Κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ, σας θέλουμε στην γωνία, βέβαια. Εντάξει. The conversation is going to be held in English, so Prime Minister, thank you so much for being with us second year in a row. It means so much for us to be here for our conference. And our fellow Greek citizen, Victoria, thank you so much. So we have lots of interesting questions in just 30 minutes, so I'm going to start right away. I think we can guess one of your biggest dreams for your prime ministership, and we can guess it because it's our dream too. Can you picture yourself standing at Athens airport and waiting for the flight which is going to bring us back the Parthenon marbles? And do you see this happening in the foreseeable future, this dream coming true, like, for instance, before the elections?
Well, if that were to happen, I would make sure that I would be on the flight itself. But look, this is obviously a very, very complicated issue. It's no secret that we've had discussions with the British Museum to find an arrangement that would work for both sides. I don't think we have made as much progress as I would like. But in light also of the big renovation that will take place involving the British Museum and the Duveen Gallery in particular, maybe this could present new opportunities. So certainly I will keep on making the case that the Parthenon sculptures deserve to return to the Parthenon Museum. This is not a typical restitution argument. This is a reunification argument. The Parthenon sculptures tell a story which today is probably even more relevant than ever. It is not just an example of the pinnacle of classical Greek civilization, but it, especially the Parthenon frieze, tells the story of the Athenian democracy at its peak. And it needs to be viewed in its entirety at the Acropolis Museum. So I will certainly persist. I don't think that we're close to a positive outcome, but I do also think that public opinion in the United Kingdom is certainly shifting in favor of our arguments.
But we have nothing specific to announce it.
No, you would be the first to know, but okay. Unfortunately, no. Yeah.
Victoria, you've been witnessing this discussion for years and years. What's your view? What do you think?
I'm growing a little bit impatient. The last time I went to the Acropolis Museum, Mr. Stampolides and I hugged each other as I left. And we said, it must happen. I said, it must happen in our lifetime. And he said, but I want to be walking into the museum behind them. So we both need to still be capable of walking. So I don't want it to be, in 20 years' time. And as Mr. Mitsotakis said, the latest poll shows this growing opinion by the British public that those sculptures should come home. At the same time, we now have this announcement from the new Egyptian Museum that they want the Rosetta Stone back. So that's a new challenge to the British Museum as well, which I think will slightly change they might think, well, actually, if we're now in the spotlight from two important countries wanting major archaeological finds back, perhaps we need to act more quickly. So the more pressure that we can put the museum under, from my point of view, I think the faster they will return. So we will keep campaigning, and every day there is something happening to that effect.
I think we have to be tenacious and very systematic in making our arguments. And of course, I do understand that for the big universal museums, there's always a belief that the floodgates could open and all sorts of restitution claims could be made. But I do make a distinction between the Parthenon sculptures and other objects, not just because of their particular importance for Western civilization, but again, because it is one monument. I once used this example, which upset my British friends, but it's like cutting the Mona Lisa in half and having half of it in the Louvre and half of it in the British Museum. This is exactly the experience with the Parthenon sculptures. It doesn't make any sense. We've built a lovely museum that is right next to the Acropolis, and they need to be experienced in Greece in situ. And I will certainly continue to campaign. And I think we're building also a coalition of not just of Greeks, and I do refer to Victoria now. Ελληνίδα είναι πια η Victoria και με τη βούλα του νόμου, but also many friends of Greece who are adding their voice to what I consider to be a very just claim and request.
One of the most funny things that the Brits themselves are saying about returning whatever it's been stolen is that if the British Museum gives back everything which has been stolen, they'll end up with 2 oil paintings with Cocker Spaniels. So even for them, it's very difficult to say, you know, we're returning things that we assume that they might be stolen.
But again, let me point out here that at the end of the day, one needs to think creatively. And one, as I've said publicly, could offer to the British Museum a partnership which would also work in their favor with rotating exhibitions of treasures that maybe have never left Greece. So we want to find a solution that works for both parties. This does not mean that we don't have a very legitimate, not just a legal claim, but historically and culturally legitimate claim in arguing that the sculptures need to return to Greece.
Prime Minister, Greece has entered a new era. It has left behind financial crisis, has undergone a very profound transformation, and it's now considered as a success story, a power in the region. So what is our brand as a nation in 2026? And what is our new narrative for the 10 next years? How do you see it?
Well, I think this is a very, very challenging question. And of course, when we talk about branding a country, I'm always a little bit skeptical because this is something that goes beyond just our tourism product. There are many, many countries that are running, very successful campaigns promoting their country as a tourist destination. And this, of course, is also one of the topics of this gathering. But I think we are portraying an image of a country that has clearly left behind its very, very difficult years, that is moving in the right direction, that is embracing modernity while also clinging to our traditions and what makes us so unique. So I think this is double vision of Greece, a country that offers tremendous opportunities, not just to travel to, but to work from, to set up business in Greece, while retaining a unique product in terms of what we can offer, while at the same time, embracing the future with optimism and not just clinging to our glorious past. Because I think in the past we've constantly looked at Greece as a country that was simply the custodian of a glorious civilization. Of course, this is incredibly important, and we cherish it and we value it. But in today's context, one needs to talk about the future and how we fit in this changing world. And of course, when we do talk also about Greece as a destination for travelers, I have not shied away from my ambition to make Greece the #1 tourism destination in the world in terms of the quality of our offering. I mean, in order to get to that point, we still have we still have work to do. But I think at a time when people are more focused on experiences, and in particular unique experiences, Greece has so much to offer beyond what it has already offered in terms of its traditional tourism offering. And of course, this forces us to look at issues around sustainability, protection of our very unique cultural and natural ecosystems. What does it mean, for example, to be the custodian of the Cycladic Islands, which are so important and so unique? What does this mean for development, and how do you balance sustainable development with the preservation of your cultural heritage? These are difficult trademarks, but certainly we should not lose sight of the fact that, you know, whatever growth we are trying to promote, we always need to respect what makes us so unique, and certainly avoid the mistakes that other countries have made, especially when it comes to overbuilding. I don't think there are very few places, if you look at tourism, which are really overbuilding Greece, unlike other Mediterranean destinations, and we need to make sure that we respect this very unique natural and cultural landscape that we have inherited.
Victoria, before becoming a novelist, you've been a travel writer, and you have traveled extensively. I mean, you've been everywhere in Greece. But sometimes the tourists, their experience in Greece is quite limited to few places, such as the Acropolis, or Santorini, or Mykonos, or Hydra. But there are so many things to see, and also it's not just about Instagrammable photos, it's about monument, it's about something which is more deep and more meaningful. So how can we help them to find out the real Greece?
I did something the other evening with 10 very educated friends who happened to come round for a drink. And I gave them each a piece of paper, and I asked them to draw Italy, France, Spain, and then Greece.
And?
The results were shocking. Greece, essentially, only half of it seems to exist. They could all draw Italy. It's a boot. Very simple. A child could do it. France is a very simple shape. But Greece has a very complex geography. So some of them got the Peloponnese. They managed the peninsulas there, and then they totally missed out the Halkidiki part. And I realized that most of them have never been north of Athens. They put Athens on the map, and then they were a bit vague about what happened next. So I think a lot of it is education, you know, to get people to go further north, to see Meteora. Many British people don't even have a vision of this extraordinary place. They have to go to the Parthenon. That's a kind of sine qua non, but they very often are just simply ignorant about the rest. And I don't think perhaps there's enough done. Before being a travel journalist, I was actually in advertising. So I'm always coming up with slogans in my mind for campaigns for Greece. And, you know, whether it was ancient and modern, hand in hand, or Greece is full of surprises, because I think Greece is full of surprises.
Definitely.
You know, because the familiarity and the iconic status of the Parthenon temple almost takes away, makes people think that's all there is. And even if they got to Thessaloniki, they would see a whole other world, quite apart from the nature, you know, the ecotourism that we talked about. I'm wearing green today, not as a political statement.
I would hope so.
But I thought, what colour should I wear to a day which is about, or 2 days, about sustainability and the nature in Greece, which is so fantastic, but in a way quite sustainable, because nobody's up walking in the Pindus Mountains as I have done. You know, there aren't tourists ruining, there's no worry about the ecology of so many places. They could actually do with a lot more, and let's, in a way, spread them spread them north, I think, would be
so
my...
what if the Prime Minister asked you, Victoria, can you just please prepare a campaign for Greece? What would you do?
Well, it would be foresee. People have talked a lot. I've been here all day, so I've heard all the sessions, and I hear people talking about the 4 seasons of tourism. But generally, tourists who come in from outside are very concentrated in that summer period. I don't think they've got the message. So it would be the 4 seasons and the 4 corners. It would be north, south,
great.
East
That's a great
and west.
slogan, by the way. 4 seasons, 4 corners.
It's a sort of multifaceted country. It isn't just the Parthenon, although I campaign so vigorously for the Parthenon sculptures. I always want to say, well, I could campaign for other aspects of Greece as well, to encourage people to see its beauty, because it's quite astonishing.
And
the
diverse.
Diversity, the variety. Who knows, or in Britain, if I was asking this audience, did you know there were bears in Greece? Nobody would know that except me.
Have you encountered one?
No, I've seen tracks though. I've seen tracks, but that's something that, you know, it's something new. It's not new, it's ancient, but it's something different and something very now and something very green and sustainable.
Well, this is the thing. I was in Nausa last weekend, and I was really impressed because I visited 2 amazing Macedonian tombs, and I've been a cultural correspondent for like 30 years. I didn't know they existed, and also the entrance was free of charge. And the question goes to the Prime Minister, is there a plan to help regions in Greece which are not so touristically developed, to help them in any way we can?
I'm wearing a blue tie, but this is to celebrate the blue economy. It's nothing to do with party preferences. Yeah. But I think, first of all, what Victoria said is critical. If you look at the people who come to Greece, when they come to Greece, the places they visit, it's still a relatively narrow experience. And I think the big challenge for us and for the ministry, but for the entire government, is to, of course, expand the season and open up more opportunities for different types of experiences. People are always surprised when I tell them that we have mountains, that they can actually ski in Greece, that they can trek in Greece. And of course, when you look at our cultural heritage, the truth is that most people don't come to Greece for the culture. They do come for the summer experience. So in terms of the breadth of our cultural experiences and the sites that we can offer, I would say that the sky is a limit in terms of introducing new destinations. Even for our cruise industry, I happen to have a meeting today with one of the leading cruise operators, and there the challenge it really is, how should I say it, a de-Mykonofication of our product. This is not just, with all respect, due respect to Mykonos and Santorini, this is not just, I mean, these destinations have probably reached their limit. But when I look at these cruise ships going up and opening up new destinations where there's not much pressure, you mentioned, for example, Amorgos.
And the fishermen.
And the fishermen in Amorgos are doing an incredible job to protect their own natural habitat. This is going to attract tourists. So when we did the same in Astypalea to launch what a true eco-friendly island really means, this is going to attract visitors. When we're looking with the Ministry of Tourism to do a proper eco-labeling for our resorts so that people understand how sustainable they really are, this is going to open up new destinations. And when we look at, for example, investment support for tourist investments, yes, my directions to the competent ministries have been very clear. Offer support only in those regions that are underdeveloped in terms of tourism. We clearly don't need more support in the more developed parts of Greece, in the Cyclades or in Crete. But when you look at, for example, Western Greece, which is really developing. There are still many beach destinations in Greece. I mean, the amazing work that was done in Costa Navarino, in Messinia, opening up a completely new destination. And again, the vertical supply chains that you build. I mean, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about experiences. If you go for a nice bike ride and and eat at a local, not even a local taverna, at a local house, and experience the tradition and the craftsmanship, I still think there is tremendous value, because the country is so diverse, because you are still in a relatively small country. You have different musics, you have different cuisines, you have different traditions, you have a very different climate, and this opens up an opportunity for a very segmented marketing by region, by city. Look at Thessaloniki, for example. I mean, Thessaloniki it's probably historically the only true Greek metropolis throughout the centuries, and with the new investments there, it's becoming an amazing city destination. But from Thessaloniki, you can be in Vergina in 1 hour. I mean, have we really marketed, for example, the footsteps of St. Paul in terms of the trips that he followed? Not really. So wherever you look, you see opportunities for a more targeted promotion of Greece that again focuses on unique experiences. And this is my vision. It's not so much a question of numbers, but a question of quality, and certainly a question of customer satisfaction. I want people to come to Greece, be happy about their experience, then hopefully go and buy some Greek products or some Greek agri-products when they return home, and certainly return, and hopefully not necessarily return to the same destination. And no matter where I look, I see, I see these types of opportunities. So we will always preserve sort of our main sort of mass product, but in terms of branching out in various different categories, there's really so much more we can do. And of course, support the relevant investments, be it in marinas, because sea tourism is still probably even more sustainable than building sort of new hotels, or in terms of developing new destinations.
Well, one of the things that repeaters love, and this is why they come to Greece, or even first-timers in Greece, what they love is our warm temperament, is our authenticity, is the sense of hospitality that we have, which is something we do very naturally. But the thing is that the last years, due to gentrification and mass tourism, we are changing our behavior towards foreigners, and also we are losing some of the traits that we used to have. So how can we protect our most valuable asset, which is authenticity? It has to do with our soul, our DNA. And the question goes for both of you.
Well, I'm still an outsider, although I am very honoured to be a Greek citizen as well. So when I come with family and friends to Crete, which is generally my holiday destination, they are always amazed by authenticity. That is something that really, really touches them, that we can go to a small taverna and have food that's been cooked in the back by the same couple who've
What about
been
the price
for
of the food?
years. Generally in the mountains, that's where we find the authenticity,
Okay.
and that's where they are most enamoured of their experience, and they always want to go back there. Whereas, the more touristic, mass market destinations, you probably will never have that. But is it something that can you artificially preserve authenticity? It's
I don't know.
It's a contradiction in terms. Authenticity is itself. And I'm not against big luxury hotels. They perform an important function for the economy and for the visitors. But people who go there are they're not going to spoil the authenticity of the rest, and they're perhaps not interested in the authenticity. But my belief is that authenticity will survive.
We're just going to have ceviche, but not a real fish. in a tavern.
That's my
I see your point.
observation and my hope that it would be impossible to damage in any way such a strong culture as the Greek culture is and always has been.
Prime Minister, what do you believe?
Economic value to authenticity. So look at our crafts, for example, and this incredible tradition of craftsmanship that we've had in Greece. I mean, these traditions survived throughout the centuries because they served an economic purpose. Now they need to find a different economic purpose, so they need to find a different market. Be it, you know, your local honey producer or your local weaving, or the local food that you will eat, which is going to be literally from farm to table, because that's the way it always was. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is the way things were. So assuming you can attach a specific economic value and you will have customers who are willing to pay for this, then the challenge of the government or the regulator is to make sure that you create a framework to preserve this while ensuring that there is enough economic value for economic activity to continue, for young people to stay. And of course, you know, the jobs may change, and you need, you know, someone who, if you have a fisherman, for example, can make additional money by taking tourists on board, early morning for a fishing experience. And this is perfect because he can still do his job, but he can have an additional income by sharing what he does. And there are many such opportunities, but it requires a lot of education. It requires training. For example, we need mountain guides, so we need to train them and certify them. We need mountain rescue sort of operation and helicopters if we really want to open up our mountains to this type of tourism. So it's a combination of targeted sort of redirection by the state and explaining to people that there is a future to be made by actually preserving the way things are, because people are interested in this authenticity. And wherever you go in Greece, you will find these authentic experiences, and more people are discovering them. And in an era where these experiences are being shared more easily, it's also easier to market these experiences abroad and to make a case. I very much like what you said, full of surprises. I think we should take this on as a suggestion, because this is sort of my experience whenever I show people around Crete. I mean, they're blown away by what they see. This is not necessarily what they expect from Greece. Not that what they expect is bad. They like what they get. So they like the beaches or Knossos or the Acropolis if they come to Athens. This is always going to be important, but there are things beyond that that can really help us turn the country into a very, very unique destination.
We're talking about cultural heritage, but what about today? What are the things we can be proud of as cultural achievements? I mean, is just George Lanthimos films, or we have other things, according to you?
Well, I do think that there is a very vibrant, cultural scene in Greece today. I mean, you just look at Athens, the activities, the performing arts, the Museum of Modern Art, and the work that it is doing, the number of sort of cultural exhibitions related to modern art. I think we have every reason to be proud of our modern cultural heritage. And I think, frankly, if you look at Athens, there are not many cities that offer this breadth of experience than Athens does, and the same, of course, is true for new writers or new poets. So I think there are a lot of sort of bright lights when it comes to modern cultural output, and I think this is to be expected because Greece, going through all this crisis, I mean, the crisis is usually a laboratory for artistic expression. And a lot of the artistic creations that you see now is also the product of a country that had to struggle with its identity, with its place in the modern world. And some of the work that I see is truly exceptional, world class, I would say.
Victoria, what do you think?
In terms of, I think Lanthimos is bit of an exception, and you threw it in to be controversial, I know, Margarita, because people don't necessarily connect him with Greek culture. I think more could be done to allow tourists in. When I say tourists, I'm thinking of the foreign tourists rather than the Greek tourists who might come to Athens or go to Thessaloniki. I think quite often they're a bit afraid to enter into the world of music or drama, opera, because of the language barrier and all that, those issues, but they could nevertheless certainly enjoy more Greek music. I mean, to me, one of the great Greek cultural experiences is to go to a bouzoukia. But I'm sure the only British originally born in Britain person in there, but that's quite something. I mean, that really is quite an experience, and I think tourists would be quite shocked, but I don't think they'd dislike it, seeing the Greeks having so much fun.
Especially if we bring back the plate tradition, which seems to have been...
Yes, I think they'd be disappointed.
Now that you have the Greek citizenship, you can do it too. I mean, it's like it's part of the, part of nationality.
You can do that in London, but it's not authentic. I always sit there going, that's not authentic. It should be flowers.
Okay, last question. Let's say that a friend of yours calls you up. He's never been to Greece, and he says, can you please tell me where to go? Just one island or one place. So what would you choose? And it's not Crete. What would you choose? And it's not Crete again.
Right now, I would send them to Kastoria.
Okay.
We've all heard of the fall. The Americans promote the fall like it's some extraordinary thing. And I went one autumn when it was the autumn and the leaves were there. And of course, being me, I compared it with going to Kastoria and seeing the leaves on the trees up there. So November, that's where I would send them, up to the north.
Prime Minister, I know it's a tough question. It's not Lefkaori, so where else?
Well, if it were an island, it would be Tinos. And or because even that is, I can be accused of being biased, or I would choose Limnos.
Limnos,
which is an extraordinary island, up north with a totally unique geography, unlike any sort of Greek island. It will remind you probably a little bit of Scotland in terms of the geology. And I think if it were the mountains, for me it would have to be Zagori and the mountains north of Yanina. It's a totally unique combination of stunning natural beauty and an incredible and very well preserved cultural heritage in terms of all the villages in the area. And Zagori, by the way, being discovered by many foreigners, and again the possibility of our mountain destinations becoming year-round destinations. It's easier for a mountain destination to become a year-round destination than for an island, a smaller island, to become a year-round destination.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. It has been an honor. Thank you very much. Now, this is the first day. We have a second day tomorrow, and I hope you're with us. And I would also like to invite you for a drink outside and thank our founding partners, which is Aegean, Athens International Airport, Attica Group, Faraport Greece, Piraeus Bank, PPC, PwC. So thank you.